All right, guys, welcome back to the PricePlow podcast. Today we are joined by Mirko Holzmüller and Stefan Schweyer, and we're going to be talking about the world's best creatine, possibly. These guys represent Creapure, and I'm super excited to get into talking about this. We've done a couple videos recently about Creapure, and through actually Nutristat, we got the opportunity to sit down with Creapure and really get the information from the source. So, guys, thank you so much for joining us today. If we could start with Mirko and then go into Stefan, if we could talk about your background and what you do at Creapure just to kind of set the stage, I think that'd be really interesting and a good place to start.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks for the opportunity and also great meeting you. My name is Mirko Holzmüller. I'm responsible for the global marketing of Creapure. I worked for Alzchem since 2016. I have a complete different background. I'm coming from the board sports scene, and Alzchem approached me and asked me if I'm interested working for a chemical company, and I took the challenge. I had a white paper to paint on, an incredible product with Creapure, and I created, also together with Stefan and some other guys, the whole marketing around Creapure, what you can see nowadays. Like everything on the homepage, YouTube, social media goes over my table, but it's also created by Stefan and some other guys I'm really, really thankful for.
Yeah, so my name is Stefan. Ben, Mike, first of all, thanks for having us on. This is exciting.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, so my background is in exercise science. I originally wanted to stay in academia, but then while I was finishing up my degree, I met Mirko in 2017 in a McDonald's, of all places. But obviously I've always been, really into figuring out what drives human performance, been taking creatine since I think the age of 16, was already familiar with a German-made creatine. And, back then, as Mirko said, we always had a state-of-the-art product, but Alzchem, the company behind it, was kind of missing, I think, communication strategy, marketing. So, when Mirko came in, he had this vision of really creating a cool brand, something people can relate to, and just getting that message out of that we have, the best creatine, the only creatine that's made in the Western Hemisphere in Germany. And yeah, we've been working on that ever since. Mirko's in Germany at our headquarters, and I am in the US. I'm work out of Washington, D.C., and kind of handle the business development in North America.
Awesome. There's so many places to start. I guess it might be nice to introduce your parent company, because Alzchem's been around for longer than creatine, I'm imagining, or something around those lines. But Creapure is, I'm not sure if Creapure is its own company or its own kind of brand within Alzchem, or how does it all work?
Creapure is the brand within Alzchem. It's the brand for our creatine monohydrate we produce here since over 30 years, meanwhile. But Alzchem is much older, as you already said. Started in 1908, and we are a really diversified chemical company. We produce products for agriculture, for renewable energy, for automotive, for fine chemicals, and we have the experience in producing for human nutrition creatine monohydrate. We were the first company producing creatine commercially for the whole supplement industry, and we have the highest experience. And we are also more or less transparent. Everyone can contact us. You can look us up on the internet. Like, we don't need to hide anything. Like, we are really proud of what we are doing here. And this is also maybe the key to success of Creapure, meanwhile, because people are also really conscious or want to be aware of what they are taking. And with Creapure, you know exactly what you're taking and where it comes from. And just the best and purest creatine.
Awesome. Now, I do have to assume, at this point, most of our readers, or most of our listeners and everything, viewers, know what creatine is. So, but just in case, can you give us like the 1-minute elevator pitch? What is creatine? Why should anyone take it? And you can make it more than 1 minute.
Tic-tac-toe, Stefan, or who? Who want to go?
You can go ahead, and then I'll add on.
Okay. Creatine is naturally produced within your body, like in your kidney, liver, and pancreas. and it's mainly stored in your muscle, and they're responsible for energy transformation. ADP is transformed with the help of creatine back to ATP, and that's the energy currency of your muscle, the gasoline of your muscle. Besides that, it's an important energy system in your brain. It's good for your bone health, and meanwhile, it's also it's the scientifically most researched supplement globally with over 69,000 studies, and it's not only good for sports people. It has benefits for women's health, for male fertility, for elderly people. There are also evidence that it will help you overcoming a post-COVID infection or syndrome, and it's crazy, like what creatine really does in the body. At the end, it's just pure energy. And if you use this energy for a toaster or for a Tesla, it doesn't matter. Both are working with energy. And maybe I'm more the toaster, Stefan is, or you guys are more the Teslas. And yeah, this is how it works. And I can, from my own perspective, is I'm vegetarian since I'm 16. And as I started taking creatine, I felt a tremendous change in my energy metabolism. I had more power, more energy, a better sleep, a better concentration. I have 3 kids at home and a wife. You know how demanded this could be. And yeah, and I have a pretty exhausting full-time job. But it's with creatine, you have the power and energy, and with Creapure, you're taking the best.
Yeah, and maybe to add to what Mirko just said, obviously the body produces small amounts of creatine itself, and then you also by eating red meat or seafood, you can also get some amounts of creatine into your diet. But if you are, not eating a lot of meat or fish, you are physically very active, the body might not have enough to function optimally, and that's where we come in. And we make the exact same molecule at a very, very, very high purity in Germany. And, it can, as Mirko said, it's super helpful, obviously, for elite athletes and athletes to boost their performance, but for a whole bunch of other people too, for both the performance and the health benefits it offers.
I love all the directions that you guys took it, because I think right now, creatine is really going through a renaissance, and it can be really easy to start talking about brain health or women's health or Alzheimer's and all these other discussions and forget the probably thousands of studies on the sports performance side that, have been used for so long. It's such a huge product in so many different ways. As two creatine experts, and with probably access to all the creatine you can get, how much creatine do the two of you take every day?
I go with 5 grams every day.
Okay.
Like it's in my opinion and in our opinion, and also what the majority of this science says, 3 to 5 grams are good dosage every day to constantly increase your creatine capacity. Like about 60% your body produces endogenously, and the other 40% you need to get from outside sources. And if you take 3 to 5 grams, your body can really easily digest it. You won't have any negative side effects. If you load too much, it could cause some diarrhea or some stomach aching, too much water bloating. Therefore, 3 to 5 grams, in my opinion, is the perfect amount. If you have more muscle mass than I have, then you can also calculate with about 1K per 10 kilograms of body weight. Yeah.
That's what I do. I mean, it obviously would also make sense to take body weight and muscle mass into consideration. So I just do 1 gram per 10 kilograms. So I'm about 80 kilograms heavy. So I do about 8 grams a day. And to the loading, it kind of like there's 2 schools of thought. There's some researchers in the United States who are still pushing the loading phase. Like what we've seen is there's been comparison studies, and after like 2 months of taking creatine, once the muscle is really saturated, then you can't tell anymore whether that person has loaded initially or hasn't. That being said, in very specific cases, let's say you have a competition coming up in 4 weeks, and you want to get, or in 3 weeks, and you want to get the benefits as fast as you can, then there might be a case where loading would be advantageous. But for the broad public, I think you don't have to. You can just start with your 5 grams, so 3 to 5 grams from day one, and just keep that going on training days. rest days every day. Don't need to cycle off. You can take it year round.
I think we've already broached so many myths about creatine in the first 15 minutes of this, which has been really great. I think the first time I saw you guys in person was at the ISSN. I think you guys have been at their show before. Joey Antonio's been on the podcast before, and he's talked about using 10 grams a day where he found some more mental benefits. There was a recent study on sleep deprivation where they were using 20 grams in the morning and it really offset all the negative benefits, or negative effects of poor sleep. But I love that you guys talked about like an actual equation for your dosage. I've been a 5 gram person my whole life. I've always just said 5 grams, just take 5 grams. But the truth is, for some people with higher amounts of lean mass, it is possible that they're going through their creatine faster because they have more muscle mass. But I agree. 5 grams is a really easy place for most people to start. People who are starting creatine and maybe they're not like super serious athletes. Mike, did you have any questions you wanted to get into?
I have questions, comments, everything. So first off, I do like the gram per 10 kg because I think people sometimes need an easy system. 5 grams is the easiest system of all. So for people looking to go a little bit more, if you're a big dude, then yeah, like with a lot of muscle mass, 5 grams is going to do it. What I like to comment is that Mirko said it is endogenously made. And so we are going to make it. The thing is that when you look at the research, when we quote this study a lot in the articles, it's expensive metabolically for your body to make it. So especially if you're not getting a lot through diet, you can make it, but it's like you're better off. The body likes to be lazy if you can, and we've talked about this on other podcasts where if you can just provide it with the source itself, then it can go on and do bigger and better things. So a lot of times people ask how much should I take? It is a big it depends equation. It depends on what you're eating, how big you are, and then how much you might be using and everything. So in general, like the 5 grams is safe, but I like that you can, there are ways to easily calculate doing more. So
and it has an excellent safety profile too. So
yes.
And like if you, let's say you are a little bit higher on the higher end of how much you're taking, probably the body turns it into a creatinine and then you just pee it out. You don't really have any negative side effects.
Mm-hmm.
So you're not going to cause any harm if you're, 2 grams more than you ideally would need in any given day.
Yeah, back in the day with the loading, it used to be, and a lot of people say, oh, they're just trying to get you to buy more. But at this point, it's like, it's not extraordinarily expensive. So it just makes sense. Like you could load up a little bit, but you don't need to go to 20 grams a day. So one thing that, Mirko, yeah.
As a creatine manufacturer, like everyone should take 20 grams per day. To be honest, we are really scientifically based and we just also give advice to the people out there. Like we don't want to cheat on anyone. I take creatine wisely and smart and don't overdose. It much doesn't help much,
Mm-hmm. One thing I wanted to bring up is, and Mirko, you kind of brought up the idea of energy and everything. When you're not taking it, you feel less energy, or when you do take it, you feel more. That's the one thing is like we talk about ATP and how it helps you produce ATP and the building blocks for ATP. However, it's not like stimulatory. And so I think a lot of people, they want to feel stuff nowadays, like beta alanine gives you the tingles. Caffeine is obviously very experiential. But creatine doesn't have like that type of stimulatory effect. But Mirko, you kind of did bring up that you do feel it when you're a little bit low, and then if you go on it.
Absolutely, and also I felt it after 10 days immediately. Normally, you feel a change in your energy metabolism after 30 days, but due to my vegetarian lifestyle, I felt a tremendous change, and I was like, really, like, whoa, this helps me on a natural and positive way and not like, you can drink a Red Bull and you can get a high for 2 hours and then you fall down. With creatine, you're on a constant high energy level and you just get the best out of your performance, out of your body, and also on your concentration. Like this, it really helps.
Yeah, like creatine is in a different category, right? It's cellular energy. It's what's called a ergogenetic source of energy, so it works very differently, obviously, than caffeine or beta alanine, where you get that immediate boost. With creatine, you take it for a while, and then you have consistently more energy.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe also some background to me, because for me it was also like was completely new to market a supplement, a nutritional supplement. And my background from my teenage years is like I was really highly influenced by the whole straight edge hardcore scene. And just marketing a supplement was kind of like, shall I really do this? But I'm 100% convinced like that's a really good supplement. Like it's a healthy supplement, and I can 100% back this up, or how's it called? Like I can 100% commit to creatine and to Creapure. It's a body-owned supplement. We produce it by ourselves, and we produce the same chemical compound, as Stefan already said, just synthetically, and you can just refill your natural creatine capacity. So for me, it's also like it was in the beginning was like, ooh, shall I really do this? But with creatine, it's like it was the perfect fit to my lifestyle so far.
I feel like you're especially spoiled in terms of getting to market a dietary supplement. Like creatine is a great. I think that everyone should take creatine. Like young people, athletes, all the way up to elderly people. But you're also at a company where it's extremely transparent how it's being manufactured, where it's coming from, the quality behind it. Like we can literally call up your patent in America to show like the purity of it, which is a level of transparency that with most creatines, even if they're tested by a manufacturer or a retailer or whatever, they don't have that level of transparency into the process like that you guys give. So like you're really able to really commit and get behind that. I can totally understand.
Yeah, and I can tell you, like I've been involved in sales in at least in North America for the last 8 years now. We have like I haven't had a single recall. Like we really every product that comes out of our facility in Germany, is tested. It's all the same quality, and it's really what sets us apart from the the generic material that comes out of China. But I wouldn't make the claim that it's all bad, but you can talk to like some company that use generic material. They once in a while, or you get a product that tests out of spec, has to be sent back, or there's concerns with creatinine levels that are too high, or DHT, DCD levels. And with Creapure, you can just be certain the brands that use it and also the end consumers, if it's a 100% Creapure product, it's always the same high quality standard.
I like how you guys position that. Sorry, when I started getting into the Creapure content for you guys 2 months ago, I was a little bit more of a fan of just generic creatine because you can get it testing on spec. And once I started looking into your guys' sourcing process and how much of it you like make transparent from the source product into what becomes your creatine monohydrate, like I realized like there's a standard that you can always expect when Creapure's name is used, which is really awesome because there's a lot of variance in dietary supplements in general. So I gotta give you guys big kudos for that.
Thanks, we appreciate that.
Yeah, so I guess that's my question is, if I were to look at a COA or a spec sheet that you guarantee, what % purity do you currently put out there on your spec sheets?
99.99.
Oh, really? Okay, I thought it was 99.7. Okay, that's incredible. That's okay. Wow. So are you doing something different chemically in the factory? I guess you don't know what other people are doing, but in general, like, do you have you clearly have a very specific refinement process. Can you get into that at all? Or is this a trade secret, or is it just that other people are kind of being a little bit cheaper or lazier about it?
I can easily recommend 2 videos which are online and easily can be found. It's one, the production video of Creapure. And if you want to see how it all starts, just Google the image clip of Alzchem. It shows you where we start. Like we start with coal, lime, and energy. We melt coal and lime by 2000 degrees together and create calcium carbide out of these 2 products with the energy. Calcium carbide is one of our first products we sell to the metallurgy industry to enhance steel properties. But then the calcium carbide comes to Trostberg, and there we process it to calcium cyanamide. This is a product for agriculture. We can split off the cyanamide. Cyanamide is then a liquid material. And we also produce in-house natrium sarcosinate. And both liquid materials what we found out, if they react under a certain temperature and pressure, create creatine monohydrate. And then we just separate the liquid material from the solid material. We dry it. And at the end, it's the same chemical compound your body produces naturally. For me, like, I'm not a chemist, it's magic. We have this comic in Germany, it's called Asterix and Obelix, and there's a guy just cooking a magic drink, Miraculix. And like, for me, it's the same. Like, we are producing the same chemical compound your body produces naturally. We are well known for this, and also our production route, like, it was really like what I just told you is like the top, or not the top. I was called, like, it's not all the knowledge you need to know, but our manufacturing process is different from the manufacturing process from generic creatine in China, and this is what's so special about Creapure, and what we do, as Stefan already said, like, we really analyze every single batch before we ship it. So we are 100% sure that we only ship the best and purest creatine monohydrate, best and purest Creapure, before it goes into sales.
Yeah. Maybe to add to what Mirko said real quick, also, if you know where it's made, it's in like the Chiemgau region in Bavaria, in a very, very clean environment, obviously, where you have like the top engineers from Germany, all EU regulations. So that all leads to a really, really, really high quality product. What I know, like, some of the generic material, you have slightly different production routes. Some actually that would use something like methylthiourea in the route, which could potentially lead to impurities. But we really, obviously we test product from the market. And the good thing for us, we can very easily, because the quality is so different, we can always say, okay, this is definitely a Creapure product and this is not. But what we really focus is on just our product and making sure it's the best and highest purity that we can manufacture.
That's cool. Thanks. I didn't expect all that detail. So it's like the chemical reactions aren't some secret, though. It's just that you're really, really good at doing it. And there are shortcuts that can be taken. And those come at the expense of kind of quality and everything. Because one of the comments we make, or that we've been making lately, is like, this is, you use a solid amount of stuff. Like, it's 5 gram dose, which means, like, if you have a 96% purity, like, what's the other 4%? From the competing products.
99.
Oh, no, I'm saying,
you meant
okay.
for the generic stuff.
For the generics, yeah. I'm not saying you as in Alzchem. I'm saying, yeah, if someone were to provide us a 96% purity creatine that might pass this, specs for a manufacturer or brand that doesn't care, what is in the other 4%? And it probably isn't stuff that maybe it's just creatinine, which is okay. But there's a chance that there's some other stuff in there that you don't want to put in your body. And when you're dealing with 5 grams of material, that's like, 200 milligrams of stuff. That's actually that's almost half a capsule. It's not a small amount of impurity. And so when we're dealing with high volumes of things like 5 grams or more of material, I really do appreciate that it's 99.99% pure, which is incredible. So that's like the thing that I want to impress upon people, is just because something passes a lab test doesn't mean that it's as good still.
Yeah, and maybe so in one that every consumer should look into is DHT, dehydrotriacine. So that is because actually in the US, in Germany or European Union, our equivalent of the FDA is EFSA, and it's actually regulated. Then it shouldn't be more than I think 3 particles per million, so basically non-detectable. And Health Canada does the same. They also say not more than 3 particles per million, and that's something like where we've seen that really the generic material, because the FDA doesn't really regulate that, where the levels of DHT are higher in the generic material, and that's something that never appears in Creapure. That's actually the one indicator when we test those products on the market where, okay, if we find DHT, it's not our product.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And then there's also,
I was just going to say, just to clarify, that's a different DHT than the steroidal hormone.
Yeah, no, that's dehydrotriacine.
Yes.
not the
dehydrotestosterone or whatever.
the dehydrotestosterone. Exactly. That's
okay. That's something I didn't know. That's incredible. So when you test stuff that's made outside of the European Union, for instance, there's a good chance that that's in there, and there's a chance that that's getting into the generic American products.
Yeah, and if your audience, if you want, and I'm sure you guys can put this in the show notes. Yeah. If you go to our Creapure website, we've an interesting study that we did in 2020. We've just randomly selected creatine products from the market and tested them for those impurities, and then you can really dive into the differences.
Yeah, and then from time to time we have even bigger issues with the generic creatine from China. Just about 2 years ago, in Poland, there was generic creatine already in the shelf, polluted with mercury, and they needed to recall it all over Europe. So this is something like this will never happen with Creapure, 100%. And you don't want to have any mercury in your body. And just for some cents more, like it's also just make it the calculation, how much you need to pay more for Creapure daily dosage compared to generic one. And then it's like better save the $10 per 3 months. You need to invest more for Creapure and know what you intake your body than getting a cheap creatine.
Yeah, that's like one Starbucks coffee less a month, or actually probably less, and you can have better creatine. Yeah,
so wow, okay. So a company like Nutristat, John over at Nutristat comes and contacts you. It's really not, I guess you don't really have to make much of a sales pitch. You've already kind of, the sales pitch is that you're getting higher quality stuff, and it's really the brands who really, really care kind of are just going to default to you.
Exactly. The high quality brands, but also the brands who value transparency and communication. If there is some issue or something came up, we have great customer service. You always have a basis to the brand. You can reach out to us. They also can obviously have support when it comes to marketing and storytelling. So we're not just like some no-name ingredient. We are, we see ourselves as the market leader and the gold standard in the industry, and we want to get the message out there, support customers and the brands, that everybody really takes the best creatine.
Wow. Okay. Aside from, not that I'm asking for too many nightmare stories, but aside from mercury and DHT as dihydrotriacine, are there any other impurities that you've found, or any other like crazy things that you detected in some of the other products?
Like heavy metals in general,
Mm-hmm.
like this is, and then what we already mentioned. And then, to be honest, I also need to contact our analytic department. They know it much better, but these are just the most well-known impurities of generic creatine.
Yeah, I mean, heavy metals can be an issue in a lot of different products. Creatine should not be one of them. I mean, it's so easy to source one that does not have that. Like, plant proteins, you're probably going to have heavy metals because it comes from the earth, but creatine, it's kind of funny. Like, if Creapure exists, you really don't have any excuse to be taking something less pure than that. So, all right. So, creatine's really going through like this kind of renaissance where, we're seeing people on TikTok really talking about it. We see a lot of females talking about it. It's really picking up in popularity. What are you guys looking at in terms of the trends with it, or how is it growing for you? Is there anything that you guys are watching happening that's different than the past?
The backbone for sure is our sports and performance focus, but we see that, as we already said, women's health is a really big topic at the moment. Elderly people, you can maintain your muscle power, stay fit and healthy while aging when you're taking creatine combined with a moderate workout. We are not talking about going to the gym every day. Just take your creatine and be just also kind of active while you're aging, and then you still keep your mobility and muscle power. Then if the studies are more confirmed concerning post-COVID, like this is a really, really big topic because a lot of people suffer from a post-COVID syndrome. And all these health issues are really big.
So I wanted to ask that. It's one of my notes here is you had mentioned COVID, so we broke it open here. So with long COVID, can you explain how creatine is supporting things a little bit more specifically at all, or like maybe even your own personal experiences?
It's like, as I said, it's just energy, and what the studies so far has shown. Like, also look on the studies, like just Google post-COVID studies, creatine, that people regain their energy much faster with a creatine supplementation, and it's kind of a catalyst.
Yeah.
It's not like that you're jumping out of the bed by tomorrow, but you're getting back to life, and. So, and it's not working with everyone, but there are the studies shown that some people are how's it called, act better or react better to a creatine supplementation.
Yeah, and maybe it's important also to add that obviously those studies are still ongoing. We're not making any medical claims at the moment. And like, I think broader, talking about this topic is broader, is the post-viral fatigue syndrome. You know, that's not only COVID related, but also through other sicknesses. It's basically, you know, when the body is fighting off something, you know, then all the energy, because that's the most important for the body right now, is all the energy is channeled towards that emergency, meaning the body in other areas might then lack, you know, energy or creatine. So that's like in a very macro level how you could explain it.
Yeah, I appreciate you pointing that out, because like long COVID, this isn't the first time that a sickness has endured. Like there have been like versions of that with the flu and everything too. But it makes sense. Like you want to provide your body the energy and building blocks of everything. Ben, was I interrupting you there?
No, I just wanted to mention, like, I just like the macro level view that you're giving, because that like that energy that you're giving your body, that could apply to long COVID, but it could apply to a lot of different things. And I think it's like a really sensible take at it, and probably a little bit of a regulatory save to make sure we're not making medical claims here.
No, definitely not. But yeah, it's tough because creatine is so highly involved, and ATP is involved in basically everything. So you're like right next to this thing that is everywhere. So I get it. So you mentioned some studies. I'm kind of curious of Alzchem and Creapure's, like, how you handle studies in terms of A, which ones do you fund and run yourself, versus B, like, obviously we're beyond 1,000 studies on creatine, you know, so thousands, maybe even. So do you can't control the entire creatine narrative, but do you like provide materials to anyone that asks if they have a well-designed study, or do you just stick to your own studies, or how does it all work with all this stuff?
Absolutely. And maybe also on that note, it's also interesting to look at, we're always talking about creatine, but I think it's important to point out that 95% of those studies that you've mentioned have all been done on creatine monohydrate.
True. We haven't talked.
That's important because you always have like those new forms, creatine, creatine HCl, and all making like flashy claims and trying to upsell the product at a much higher price. But like really, if you look at the evidence and the studies, 95% have been conducted on creatine monohydrate, and most of them have used Creapure. And like, yeah, obviously, like we have plenty of universities, top researchers all over the world that we work with, that we provide funding and free material. And we're really also in the research department see ourselves as a leader, and think we have an important role there. And maybe another link that you can put in the show notes that's really good sources for people who are interested in what's going on is creatineforhealth.com, where some of the latest findings are published, and where you can take a really deep dive into creatine specifically for female health, for cognitive function, for the post-viral fatigue syndrome.
Yeah, and there you can also find this book. It's a book of Professor Dr. Giesing and Robert Percy Marshall. Marshall is the team doctor, the head of medical at Red Bull Leipzig, a soccer club, like one of the biggest soccer clubs in Germany. And they wrote this book together, Creatine, Muscle Metabolism, Fitness, Health, and Longevity. You can find this book on Creatine for Health as an online read, or you can just buy it as a book version. And this is this is more or less a creatine Bible. They worked through 622 studies, and it tells you from the start of the creatine research or how it's been discovered by Chevrel to the rise of creatine during the Olympics in 1992 when Christian Lindford won the 100 meters on creatine, and he said that he trained with creatine, and then it was it was the first boost for creatine in the whole sports and performance scene. And it also clears all the myths and also scientifically based. It's a really, really great read. You can read it online on Creatine for Health or just get your own version. It's an awesome book.
Awesome. Thanks. We'll link to that in the show notes as well. So in terms of studies and looking into more studies, Ben brought up, there's some have brought up cognition and everything, but like what studies are you currently looking into funding or have already like recently funded that you're excited about? Are there any directions that you're pushing a little bit more than not?
Now you got me. I need to look this up. I can tell you afterwards because the study department is run by Ronja. She's not here in the podcast today. To be honest, like we have, I think at least 10 different studies going on. But the thing is, we mainly support it with product because we also I also want to emphasize on that we don't influence the outcome of any study. Like it's like the researchers need to be completely independent. What we mainly do is just to provide the material so that they also have the best creatine for their studies and for their research, so that at the end, hopefully, a good result comes out. Good in whatever way.
Right. Yeah, you don't want.
There's one that I know of that I'm excited about is on creatine timing. I think that's a question a lot of people have been asking. Pre or post workout, morning or night, on rest days. Most of the studies that are out there right now say, probably best right after your workout when creatine stores are depleted, but it does not really make a huge significant difference. So I think if we get some more data there on timing throughout the day, I think that would be very exciting to find out more.
I'm super curious about that because I feel like for so long we said just take it every day. Doesn't matter when you take it. And then as like more data comes out, we're starting to say like, well, if you have bad sleep, you could use it. Or, if you had like in these different situations, it might be helpful. And now I'm starting to turn around and think, well, maybe it is a good idea to time our creatine for certain things. And it's kind of feel like it's turning my opinion upside down.
Yeah, I've spoken to a few researchers. They said, when they go on a trip to Europe or back, and they know that, they have this huge time difference coming up, they preload creatine with a higher dose, and it helps them to get over the jet lag. So
interesting, really.
Stuff like there's just a lot of things you can really dive into. Where I think more and more, especially now that it has so much attention is on creatine. I think we'll continue to find out more.
Yeah, I mean, it kind of makes me think like if it helps you with the stress of travel or the stress of losing sleep or whatever, why couldn't the acute benefit help you with the stress of training or with anything else in that like in a stressful situation? So I'm super curious about creatine. I've been admittedly using a lot more of it recently. I used to just be like 5 grams a day, but recently I've been enjoying like on 10 grams pretty regularly.
Interesting.
Nice that you said enjoying. How do you typically use? Like, how do you take it usually?
I'm just a fan of just straight powder. I like to add it to other types of products like electrolytes or proteins. But Mirko brought up like stomach issues earlier if you're using too much of it. But in my experience, that's really with using like low quality creatines, and I feel like I just inadvertently only take Creapure because I'm getting it from good brands and they all happen to use Creapure. So like I'm able to take 10 grams. I take 20 grams regularly. If I have a bad night of sleep, like that's the first thing I do first thing in the morning right now is take 20 grams. And I should admit I have a pretty good gut. I don't really have an issue with large amounts of powder typically, or like, I can eat a lot of foods without an issue, but I've never had that like bloating thing that a lot of people complain like, oh man, if I take creatine, my stomach gets bloated. I personally think it's just from taking quality creatine as well, though.
Yeah, exactly. Like this is also what we get for as a feedback from end consumers. They say as soon as I switched to Creapure, I didn't have any digestion problems anymore. This is what we often get from end consumers.
See, that's what I'm talking about. Taking 5 grams of junk gives you like 200 milligrams of like impurities. Is terrible for your gut. It's not a small amount. It might seem small, but it's not. That's sorry for interrupting, but one thing I want to get your take on. So one thing about timing. When I was digging into a lot of the earlier research, back when like creatine was really like getting started, interestingly, a lot of the studies were actually putting into the intra workout drink. They're just having them drink and train because they were kind of controlling that training time. And those studies had a lot of success, obviously, as basically all athletic studies pretty much have. But we don't really see creatine in intra-workout supplements, despite seeing how much of that earlier research was intra-workout. So I think that's kind of like a funny thing because no one uses it for the one purpose at the one time when like the earlier research was using it. But I personally think it's just like do whatever fits your day best is my opinion. But
I'm 100% with you there. It's all about a good routine. And I also I just take it, in my yogurt, my teaspoon every day in the morning, then I'm done with it. And then sometimes, we have, there's also obviously some companies now who have chewable creatine tablets and gummies or like chewable sweet tart
that was
kind of tablets. Yeah. So I sometimes take them right after workout when I don't have a shake. But it's really for most people develop a healthy routine where you just make absolutely sure you get your 3 to 5 grams every day. It doesn't really then timing is really not that's secondary.
Right. Now you led right into my next question regarding gummies and regarding my dosing. I like the tablets a lot too. Like the Muscle Tech, the chewable tablets are some of my favorites. And so when Animals got some too, and there you go. So chewable tablets. When I have those in the house, my creatine use basically triples, and then I'm all out of my sugar tablets. But I do really love those. So yeah, if you have any samples over there, you can send.
Absolutely. I'd love to send you some. Because we have a chewable that we make ourselves too in Germany.
Mm-hmm. Oh really? Okay, so you have like a tablet.
There's a couple of brands. Also, if you go on our website, we have 2 categories: just the creatine monohydrate product, and then the Creapure glucose. So you go to Creapure.com, you find a couple of brands that where you can get the Creapure glucose from.
Yeah, and for those who are just listening on the audio feeds, Mirko is showing some of the tablets. So that leads us into the talk on gummies. So obviously there's been some problems in the gummy testing sphere and everything. Have you been involved in that at all, or like are you in there at all?
No, we just got the results. Or Stefan, you want to add something? But
no, you go ahead, and then I'll jump in if I have something to add.
We just saw the results of third-party testing, and the majority of all the gummies who failed were done with generic creatine. And it's just a theory from my side. It's not 100% proven by our analytical department, but the generic creatine is mostly like powdery, and this sucks a little bit more the water. So during the production process in the gummy gel, the generic creatine sucks in the water, and then it transforms. Like if creatine is longer stored in a liquid environment, it transforms into creatinine, and this goes out as it goes in. So there isn't any creatine found anymore in the gummies. And our Creapure is a crystalline form, which is a little bit more stable in a liquid environment. And the gummies made with our Creapure are all passed the test, or all had the creatine in it. So that was also pretty good.
Maybe that's interesting for your audience too. So like really what causes creatine to degrade to creatinine is, if it's exposed to a liquid or humid environment for a very long time, it starts degrading faster. If it's exposed to heat for a long time, And then obviously also acidity, so the pH level is interesting too. And that's not like, if you prepare your shake before you work out and you leave it in the refrigerator for a couple of hours, nothing is going to happen. It's still like super potent. It's really like if for a ready to drink product that's on the shelf for weeks and months where it becomes problematic. But in with the creatine manufacturing process, obviously Mirko said this, like the finer powder is more hydroceptic, so it would draw in more water, and then obviously heat that gummy mass is also heated up. So that's important that the gummy manufacturers are doing it right. And there's definitely a right way to do it, because all of our partner brands that use Creapure, we test them in our lab, and we make sure that per gummy, what they're claiming, that they're still an effective dose. And for those that use Creapure, so far they've all done a good job.
Do you test them at certain intervals? Like, do you know what the longest the longest on shelf gummy has been before you've tested them?
Oh, you got me there. Like I don't exactly. I would have to reach
Sorry.
out to our lab to see exactly if they.
It's a very niche question.
Yeah.
So we were part of Now Foods doing their creatine gummy testing.
Yeah.
That idea.
I don't know.
And I noticed Create, who did well on the testing, was using Creapure, and they're very proud of using you guys.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So, yeah, we had a good time with that testing. We didn't really get to do a lot of follow-up questions, but one of the things that we looked at was like, what was the expiration date of each one? But we did notice that Create did very well, and they used Creapure. Our stance has typically just been we like the tablets with the dextrose better. It just seems like a better manufacturing process for creatine in general. Whether or not you're using a generic, it just seems like it's the best scenario. And you get some dextrose with it, which I think Texas A&M had some studies on sugar with creatine doing well. So it seems like a win-win for everyone.
Like especially like right post-workout.
We have a shelf life on these Creapure glucose for 18 months.
Cool.
So we guarantee that the creatine, which is manufactured or processed in this Creapure glucose, is stable for 18 months at least.
Okay.
Awesome.
So with regards to the liquid, first off, Mirko's theory might actually, pardon the pun, hold some water though, in terms of the Creapure one, the Creapure working better in the gummies because of those Create products. That's interesting. If you had pointed that out earlier, Ben, I hadn't noticed. So that's pretty cool. Yeah. Okay. So with regards to the liquid stability and everything, how you mentioned like weeks or months might be bad. If I were to have a Creapure based powder and I mix it into water or some sort of solution like at night and put it in the fridge overnight, is that probably a bad idea? Like, how much time do I really have to drink my creatine?
I think you still have a very effective dose in the morning. Like
Okay.
that really we're really talking here about, weeks and months where that process takes place. Obviously, maybe it's like if you put it into boiling water the entire night, then it might look a little different. But
Right.
in your shake or water, it should be fine.
Okay, cool. Thank you. So you mentioned you tested some of those gummies. Do you test all products? Like Nutristat's pre-workout has Prescript has Creapure inside of it as well. Are you testing that to make sure that they're using your products, or is this more like you were just testing a bunch of gummies before?
No, we're testing through the line powder products, gummies, tablets, and really make sure that they meet the specs and the criteria. In order, all these brands, and we didn't touch on that yet. All these brands, they sign a TLA, a trade license agreement with Alzchem. And on that TLA agreement, they guarantee to only use 100% Creapure and not mix it with any other generic creatine. And obviously, then there's other criteria that no products that are on the WADA list, the WADA monitoring list, and so on. And so we really test all these products to make sure that the brands are playing by the rule. And if we were to find violations, we would obviously take legal action.
Right, you're serious about this. So are you not even allowing? Sorry, Mirko, go on.
That's what we do, because with the Creapure quality seal on the outside of the packaging, we guarantee to the end consumer that he only gets Creapure. And this is like, if we can't guarantee this, then we would have a problem. But we really are strict with our customers. Everyone knows it, and therefore we test from time to time the products. So trust is good, control is better, and yeah.
Gotcha.
that.
Yeah, if you're gonna do a creatine blend, you're not using Creapure. You guys are 100%. Product's got to be 100% Creapure based. Then
That's right.
does the brand have to be fully adherent to that, or can I have the Creapure based creatine and then I throw a little bit of cheapo creatine in my pre-workout? Not that I want to do that, but is that okay? Are you controlling the entire brand or just one product at a time?
There is some brands who have a multi-brand or product strategy, where they offer a generic creatine and the premium Creapure. So that would be okay as long as they're really distinguishable and there's no bait and switch going on. So then from that brand, we would really require them to make sure the product packaging looks different, like from the generic one to the creatine, and not just the logo, for example, because then I think it would confuse the end consumer.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Yeah. But at the end, for the end consumer, it's really important. Just look on the outside of the packaging to find the Creapure quality seal there. And if the Creapure quality seal is on the packaging, then Creapure is inside the product.
Ben, do you have anything else? Okay, so we might need Mirko. He just got up. We might need him for this question. But so I understand the superiority of German engineering. Trust me. But have you guys ever considered making any Creapure in America? Has that ever come up at all?
It's a difficult process. Therefore, I really recommend watch the Alzchem image clip and watch our production clip, and then you can see that it's not so easy to set up a production. You can't cook creatine in your kitchen. This doesn't work. And then you realize and we are one of the only chemical companies who are still reliant on or trusting into the NCN chain, combining coal and lime by energy. And the majority of all of our products are based on this first production step, and you can't do this easily in the US.
Yeah. Awesome. Okay. Well, we'll just have to stick with the Germans. So one thing I wanted to bring up earlier, Ben had mentioned a patent. I'm not sure if you do have patents or not, worldwide or American or otherwise. What he may have meant, and I didn't know this until recently, is that in 2020, you actually got GRAS from the FDA. So generally recognized as safe status, not just self-affirmation, but I want to link to that in the show notes, because when I saw that document, it kind of shows your whole process, and it's really impressive. Most companies don't go all the way to getting formal FDA GRAS. They do a lot of self-affirmation. So I wanted to plug that. I'm not sure if there's any patents around it, but that was one correction I did want to make.
Yeah, thanks. So yeah, it's a big process. A lot of paperwork you have to file to get the GRAS. And two others that are also important is the official health claims for creatine that we have in Europe. So you have one that really states if you take creatine, that it's super beneficial for short interval, high intensity sports and performance as a positive effect. And the other one that's also really, really interesting is if you're 55 and older and you are engaged in regular resistance training, it helps you to slow down sarcopenia, so the natural breakdown of muscle mass as you grow older. And that's obviously super, super beneficial for all sorts of health issues when you grow older. The more muscle mass you can retain, the fitter you stay, and prevent falling, bone structure. It has so many positive effects.
Awesome. And so with the European official health claims, is that more strict or less strict, or compared to the FTC and the FDA in America? Do they translate it all together?
So generally in Europe, it's a lot harder to make claims. Okay. So you always have to really be careful of what health claims you have and what you can say. In the US, it's a little, I would say, less regulated. Like here, you always have the option to make structure function claims. And, you always have to be a little bit careful when touching on the medical topics. But here you can really use more if you have a very good scientific backing, it's a little easier to make structural functional claims than it is in Europe.
Right. So I'm assuming you may help the brands a little bit with some of those claims. It ultimately depends on where they're going to be selling and marketing the product. Like if we're going to be selling this, I'm Nutristat. I'm mostly just in America, for instance. That's going to be a little bit easier. It sounds like at that point.
Yeah, I think there's plenty of claims that they can make, but aside from really the medical topics where you would need an official health claim in the United States to touch on that. But
in Europe, you do have a couple of actual medical type claims then?
Yeah, that second one that talks about the 55 and year older. It's not medical, but touching on
sarcopenia.
I don't know if it mentions specifically sarcopenia.
Okay.
Or just a natural breakdown of muscle mass.
Natural. Okay.
Yeah. In Europe, you really need to be careful, like with the claims you are putting on to the marketing of the product. So our customers aware of. We also try to give them advice, but at the end, it's up to them. Like we have 2 health claims. They are approved by the EFSA. We already tried to get a 3rd health claim for cognitive function. At the moment, it's been declined by the EFSA, but this was only because the studies we handed in weren't not homogeneous enough. Is that correct? Like they
homogeneous,
were too different, like with different participants and. But we are still focusing, and we are super convinced that we will hopefully get a 3rd health claim in the future. But it's, as Stefan said, it's not an easy process with the EFSA. You really need to put all the documents in and also convince them scientifically that this product can get this health claim you are applying.
So it's the cognitive stuff that seems to be on the up next.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Awesome.
It's what I see as well, like better concentration, just being fit in the brain, in my head. Yeah.
Most excellent. Ben, do you have anything else? I'm pretty much tapped for questions, comments, and notes and everything here.
Yeah, I feel like we got through all the questions on creatine I could possibly think up. This has been really great and informative. I think a lot of people are really going to appreciate this, so I appreciate everyone's time.
Yeah, so I guess, usually we close off like how to find you, how to follow you. You've already listed some of your websites. You could also mention if you have like personal Instagrams or anything like that. And then any closing messages to people who have been scared off from creatine. Like hopefully they understand by now. But if you feel like you have any other comments, feel free to drop them.
Yeah. Thanks for having us on, guys. And obviously, you can follow us on Instagram, Creapure. It's our handle, and other social media too. And also maybe to everyone listening, like that also it sets us apart that we're completely transparent. And if you guys have any additional questions, you can always reach out to us directly through social media or info@creapure.com. And it's very likely that request ends up on my or Mirko's table, and we'll respond.
Yeah, we do our best. Like we try to respond within 1 or 2 days, but it's we already reached the number of requests we got last year overall, but it's just mid of this year. So it's incredible how everything goes through the roof, but we try to do our best and also to offer the service, because I think the contact to the end consumer is really important, also for credibility, in my opinion. And yeah, this is what we're doing straight from the beginning, and it's hopefully also our key to success in the future. So always go for Creapure and don't settle for less. That's what I can recommend to everyone.
Wow, thank you. And just for the record, we're recording this on June 30th, so you are nearly at twice as much traction as last year. That's That's huge.
That's huge.
Yeah.
You don't want to know when I woke up this morning.
You've been up for a while. Well, thanks for joining. Yeah, you are on trend. So enjoy it, and let's make the most of it and get the education out there. So greatly appreciate you coming on and talking about it.
Thanks for the platform, and also thanks for your commitment to Creapure and your trust. Really, we are more than happy.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much for your time.
Thanks, guys. Have a good one.
We'll talk soon.
Mike, Benj.